Good morning and welcome to another edition of Coffee with Curare, your online source for job advice and some of the best jobs out there for physicians and advanced practitioners. Today we're going to be going with a March Madness theme. We're in the thick of things here in the NCAA tournament. We're coming to you live from Bloomington, Indiana. Things didn't go quite so well as we planned and hoped for with our men's college basketball team. But our women are still kicking into the third round of the women's NIT tonight. So we've got that going for us. And with that in mind, we're going to have kind of a little bit of fun today and use some March Madness type things as we talk about some job advice and some interview advice for physicians on the job market. We're going to start out passing the ball over to Ian for the first topic of the day.
Yeah, well, I'll also start off by saying, as it can happen in some offices, you see the difference between Jerry and I's attire. I did not get the memo regarding the March Madness garb. Jerry obviously did. He's killing it. I feel like I've done something wrong. Anyways, we'll get back to the March Madness factors of your job search. So one of the things that everybody has to think about is what is most important to you in identifying a new job. There's countless factors that can be involved, and quite frankly, they're probably a lot different for each person. Salary, lifestyle, how much time you're spending at work. Do I have to work in the hospital? Are they going to offer me loan forgiveness? Is there a signing bonus? Relocation? What's my bonus potential? Can I buy into a surgery center? How close is this to my family? Are there good schools in the area? I could go on and on, as I'm sure you can imagine. I'm guessing a few of these things I've mentioned probably apply to you. In the idea of kind of the March Madness, I'm asking you to consider building a job bracket, where you take all these factors, you line them up in a bracket, and you decide, okay, what's most important? They start going head to head. Do you need better long-term earnings or a better first-year salary? Do you prefer to be closer to your family, or is it more important that you have loan forgiveness? Do you want to be in a bigger city, or do you want to maximize your earnings? There's all these different things that you have to kind of compare. The reality is that when you want a job, it's probably not going to offer you every single thing that you want. So you've got to try your best to identify what's most important to you. And although it might seem a little silly, this is a pretty practical exercise where you're compiling a list of pros and really kind of putting them head to head. So once you go through this, hopefully you can end up with a final 4 for the most important job factors for you, and that's really going to allow you to determine what employer is going to offer you the most of what you have to have, and then the most of those nice to haves that maybe fell off in the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. They didn't make it quite all the way to that final 4 round.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think as you look at these job opportunities, people have various degrees of what their hot buttons are. We see people leave specifically for money because they need to pay off $300,000 worth of student loans, or specifically for lifestyle reasons. They want to work 3 days a week. So find out what really motivates yourself and whittle those down, and then pick the best job out of that. I like that approach. Put them in a bracket perhaps, and find out who the champion's going to be.
Yep.
When you're a resident, sometimes, in particular residencies, when they're in that final year, you have time set aside for interviews and time that you could get away. Usually we tend to see maybe as long as they give their bosses a week to 10 days, 2 weeks notice, they could generally get away for interviews pretty well. But in general, time is somewhat limited as to when you could get away and how far you could extend these trips or how many times you could get away. So the topic that I'm going to discuss is the full court press. And the full court press being your job search. When you're on the job market, you got to be willing to dedicate all you have to that job search. We've said a lot around here. Looking for a job as a physician could almost be like a job in and of itself. We're here to make it easy for you. We're here to explore more opportunities and find more opportunities for you and get those opportunities lined up to what we were talking about just previously, those hot buttons that you're looking for. Let us help you find the opportunities that have the hottest features that you're looking for, and we'll whittle those down to the top 4 to 6 opportunities to have you explore maybe 2 to 3 in-site and on-person. And the site visits is what I really want to talk about here, and that is, if you could string site visits together, go for it. If you could go, let's say you're coming from Illinois and your idea is to move out to the Pacific Northwest. If you could get a week off of your work and go out for 3 to 5 interviews in a 7 to 10 day period and put the whole job search behind you from that one interview effort, one interview trip, it's a great approach because you get a big bang for your buck in that way. You only take a week off, but yet you get to see 3 to 5 opportunities, and hopefully you'll get offers from each one of those opportunities, and then come back and whittle down those offers to perhaps your top 2, and then decide which ones you might want to go back and have to take a second look at. It's a very efficient way to do things, and if you've been watching Coffee with Curare for several sessions, a common theme that you'll hear is time kills deals. So the quicker you get this stuff done, the quicker you can get your job and put this monkey off your back and go into the final months of your residency training, knowing where you're going to end up, knowing where you're going to be practicing, have all your housing set aside, everything already lined up. And this is the same for any practicing physicians as well, that sometimes it's tough to get time off work when you're the new guy or the guy that's only been in a large group for 2 to 3 years. Sometimes you got to plan well ahead of the game if you're looking for a job. Do you have anything to add for that one?
I think you really hit it. I mean, you don't have an unlimited amount of time to go out and conduct interviews. And so you've really got to try to think about how you can use your time efficiently, knowing that. And like Jerry said, if there's an opportunity to group those together so that you can accomplish it all in kind of one fell swoop, that's excellent. Sometimes we even see situations where if you've got a couple of interviews lined up that are close by, employers might even split interview costs. To fly you, maybe one will pay for your airfare, another will pay for hotel rental car, they'll just split it 50-50, whatever it might be. But that makes it even easier for them to facilitate your visit, and sometimes that's the extra incentive they need to bring you out. I'm
glad you brought that up. You get, as in our positions, we hear candidates that will ask the question, Jerry, is that really ethical? Can I go interview at 2 places at the same time? And in reality, the clients that we work with, many of them, would actually encourage that type of behavior, because there is a major expense to bringing out you, maybe your wife, your spouse, maybe you have kids that want to come out for the interview as well. It's a family decision. We realize this, and so do the clients. So the expenses could pile up, and most of the clients that we work with are more than willing to work with our other clients, help us, let us to coordinate it, or they even coordinate themselves, where they split the cost behind the scenes with you not even ever knowing about it. So it's strongly encouraged, and it's a way to save the clients money. They know they're not going to get every candidate that comes to their jobs, so they do need to work with their expenses to try to keep them low for the interviews.
The one thing I'll add is a good employer wants you to do your due diligence. They want you to want the job. They don't want you to be uncertain or feel like you've not investigated your options and then bring you on and have you leave a year afterwards because you didn't really look at everything that you wanted to. So, when they're recruiting, when they're going to that expense, they want to ensure that that's a good investment, which to them means someone who's going to provide, ideally, a career's worth of service. So this is a big decision not to be taken lightly. They understand that you've really got to do some research to figure out what's best for you.
Excellent.
So again, in the spirit of March Madness, I'm going to talk about no harm, no foul, okay? So this really has to do a lot with when a contract is being negotiated. Very oftentimes, there's going to be some back and forth between a physician and an employer. It could even involve multiple revisions of the contract from the original contract language. Now, when that happens, it is possible, and in fact, it just has happened to me recently and some of my consultants, and over my 12 years of doing this, it's happened on pretty frequent occasions where the second or third revision has the new language that's been agreed to, but accidentally there is an omission of previous agreements. So some language that was added somehow gets dropped out of the third revision going out. Many times when you receive that, it's easy to see that and be very alarmed. Have they done this intentionally? Are they trying to pull a fast one on me and take out all my vacation time that we had already agreed to after the fact? In reality, it's probably just a human error. Someone forgot to put it into the contract. So as silly as it might seem, just remember, people are human, no harm, no foul. They're going to make a mistake. Your first instinct should not be to be upset or assume that they're trying to do something with ill intent. Simply get in touch with them. Hey, seems like this was omitted from the agreement. Can you put it back in? 99% of the time, they're going to say, oh, of course, my apologies. I'll get you a revision as soon as possible. So those things happen. It's just par for the course, so just be prepared for that.
I think the bottom line there is if somebody that tells you, a client or a future employer tells you they're going to do something, agrees to something, it's going to get put into the contract one way or the other eventually. And I haven't seen too many clients go back on things that said that they're going to do. And I have seen several times where your example rings true. It's just a human error, and it happens all the time. You just look past it. And one last thing on contracts too, I think for people that are switching jobs, I think good contracts hurt both parties a little bit. Both parties should experience a little bit of pain when they sign that contract, and hopefully it's more pleasure than pain for both parties.
Yeah, that's how you know it's fair.
Yeah, yeah. And finally, one thing I'd like to mention in the spirit of March Madness is now is a mad time in the job arena as well. It's a period of time that happens almost every year. Right about, you can almost time it to the first round of the NCAA tournament. In between then and tax day, April 15th, you see a major movement in the job markets for physicians and advanced practitioners. A lot of it has to do with you have people that committed several months ago to a job opportunity, and in between several months ago and now, perhaps they got a whisper from a friend or heard about this dream job, and they went off and pursued another opportunity, leaving an employer without somebody that they thought was coming. So between, let's say, last week and April 15th, we get a lot of job orders from employers that thought they had the job secured, thought they had somebody coming this summer, whether upon graduation or switching of kids' schools, what have you, but now that physician's not coming. And so now, where they had planned to open a practice or planned to have a provider providing services starting June 1st, they have nobody. And some employers are willing to get very creative to get somebody in that can begin quickly, fill one of these holes that they anticipated had already been filled. I call it March Madness of the job market, and it's consistent to every year. So if you're considering a job move this summer, don't feel as though it's too late to be looking now. Now is actually a great time to be looking. There's a tremendous variety of job opportunities in both metropolitan and rural areas. We could touch on pretty much any of the buttons that you mentioned earlier in the day. Lifestyle, money, location. We have them all covered right now. So give us a call whenever you get a chance, or jump online at physicianrecruiting.com. If you have any questions you'd like us to answer in the future on this Coffee with Curare, send them over to us at info@physicianrecruiting.com. And I think that'll do us for today. Ian, thanks a lot, and good luck to all the teams participating in March Madness this evening and throughout the weekend. We'll see you next Wednesday.